Okay, this is the beginning of a series on amateur level games. Grandmaster, even master level games, sometimes even expert level games, are rather inaccessible to players under 1600. Most of the people trying to improve their chess who take lessons or watch videos primarily to do so are under 1600. Most chess players with ratings are under 1600. So there needs to be something for you guys that are not super strong. Now, if you're an expert or master level player, it might benefit you to spend a lot of time on master and grandmaster games. And don't get me wrong, it's a good idea to look at these games, but it's also important and practical for you to see how to win games at your level. So this is a game between Class B level players, and it started with this move. Black responds in a reasonable way, and Black is playing a King's Indian, which could be used as a system opening. In fact, if you play the King's Indian as white, you can start with e4, and unless Black plays the Scandinavian, you can continue with knight f3 and then g3 and go into a kingside fianchetto and into a King's Indian attack position. Black here, naturally, we know he intends to fianchetto this bishop because it's blocked both ways on this side. This move also could be played the moment and any time that white plays e4, especially if he already has his knight at c3, because if he were to play e4 right now, of course the black knight would take it for free. Okay, that leaves e4 unguarded by pawns anytime soon, so if white wants to play e4, he plays knight c3 first. This is why usually in queen pawn openings, at least double queen pawn openings where both queen's pawns have been moved up 2 squares, you should not block your c-pawn with your knight. The exceptions are where the knight has somewhere to go soon after. So in the King's Indian type setup, sometimes the knight goes here to c6 and then to e7 to help a eventual f5 push. So even at this level, games are rarely completely won or lost in the opening. I mean, this game is so far indistinguishable from a master game, so far. And black gets his castling in and gets to a predictable position. Now, I'm thinking that if you're here, you're already well versed enough to know that that doesn't give away a pawn. If it seems like it does, look at it a little longer and see what would black do if white attempted to win a pawn. He does take here. If white were to go knight takes e5, what would black's move be? He would take at e4. So, castles. And now the knight goes here, aiming at d4. This knight gets pinned. So black immediately attacks the bishop so that knight d5 is not too unpleasant. And here, knight d4 is probably a good move. Black can always play g5 if knight d5 is played by white. So now we get this move, which is not a pin, but black may find it useful to trade off one of white's knights. And then, although it leaves white with a bishop pair, d4 is a little softer than normal, which helps black to get his pieces closer to the white king. Okay, so white puts the question to the bishop, and black simplifies. This is something that you don't normally want to do unless you're somewhat forced to. That is, to trade a bishop for a knight. And now black gives the e-pawn a little more support, which also enables this knight to move. Attacks the queen, so he takes, and he takes toward the center, which I believe is best for white. And this knight can exist here. It's a good place for him. White's preserving his bishop, but these two moves by black may have left these white squares a little bit weak. This is something that you don't typically determine by calculating, but more by judgment, intuition, because the punishment for this might take a long time, many moves into the future. This move appears safe. The pawn has 2 attackers and 2 defenders. However, if black is to take back here, notice that now the black king is getting a little bit more open and accessible. And taking it with the bishop might have been better. White's playing a little bit robotically. He's like, oh, I'm not going to trade a bishop for a knight. I wouldn't expect anybody to really notice the difference between those two moves, and an evaluation of about 1/3 of a pawn better for white is not unusual or significant here. So I would say after 17 moves in a position that's clearly beyond what could be expected of book knowledge, things are okay for both sides. So whoever wins from here, it's not going to be because of opening preparation, which most people spend too much time on. So black takes here. Looks like he wants to trade off some more pieces to relieve the problem with his king. And white voluntarily does this, leaving black with an isolated e-pawn, but he has an isolated d-pawn. And then this move was apparently not anticipated by black, because black took a very inordinately long amount of time on this move. This discovered check attacking the queen could be answered by queen f7, but then you have to worry about taking here, and this rook is unguarded. So one thing to be a little extra thoughtful about is that when a series of captures leaves new pieces freshly unguarded, you want to pay attention to that. This is also a notable move because it puts the queen on the same line as the king and makes new checks and captures possible. So this is the point in the game where it turned, because black's move looks reasonable. He gets the king off this line, but already here after queen b3, white is doing significantly better. And now this changes it to where white is out and out winning. So this is f5 was the first bad decision, sowing the seeds of destruction for black, the fact that his king is exposed. and now this rook is unguarded. And now with this capture, the rook is in trouble. So possibly what black should do is just move this rook over to f8, but having already seen the game, it's easy to say. This idea was to be able to protect this pawn. So with the king in so much trouble, black probably should want to trade queens to make his king safer, but now already it's a bad situation for black. So he's threatening to push the pawn. And the white queen keeps an eye on this rook. That means if this rook moves, he can take this rook. And the queen is away from the king's side. This leaves the black king a little more unsafe. And now that the queen is off that pawn, the problem here for black is that white now threatens to take this, and the black king will be bare. And now that's a catastrophic blunder, because it leaves this rook capturable with check. So, but here with best play, this is losing for black in any event. The best he could have done would be to take. When taking back with check, is going to leave him in a bad way. I mean, the best he can do is to move his king to one of these two squares. Let's say he goes here, and then this, which threatens to go here and take out the rest of his pawns. At very least to get a draw by perpetual check, but if he can make his rook join the fight, then it's even more dangerous for black. So, this is how that game ended. So if you're the white side, you want to do something other than pat yourself on the back. You want to go, okay, what could I do different? You look at some places in the game where you spent more time than you really needed to, or if you missed anything. As the black pieces here, naturally you want to primarily explain your loss. What did black do? His key mistakes were the f5 move, and then later when he moved the king to h7. So they both have a theme of not taking care of king safety enough. With the queen far away with these queens and rooks on the board, that was enough for white to win. So although black eventually blundered a rook, he was under a lot of pressure and losing then anyway for those reasons. So it's a mistake a lot of players make when they get themselves into a very difficult situation. Of course they're more likely to make a mistake then, because almost every move is a mistake at that point. So it's better to find more nuanced and other reasons too for a loss, more general reasons that can have wider application. So hopefully this should help players who are in, like, Class D to Class B range to get up to, say, Class A. Again, this is Chris Goldthorpe with chrischess.com, and I also have a team room on Lichess called Chris Chess. See you in the next video.